know we gotta start this episode with some tea and some incense. Not to mention, I got a little tickle in my throat and that shit is not cute.
This is a Brooklyn-bound L train. The next stop is...
All right. Hello, friends. Welcome to my podcast, my YouTube channel, whatever. We'll figure out what it is, but we're just going to do it. My name is Sydney. Welcome to She Stayed Chattin, the place where we talk about our L's. By L's, I mean the loves that we have, the lessons we learn, the L's we take. It's all about learning and growing every day. So today, we're going to talk about therapy. Triggered. She not even hot no more. So therapy, where to start? I just have to say that I'm full of so much gratitude lately for where I've been and where I am and then where I'm going, I started therapy. I tried out therapy for the first time in college. So for context, May made 2 years being out of college. And I was always one of those people who was like, oh yeah, like therapy, love it, do what you gotta do, like healing, growth, love that for you. But for me, like I was always the kind of person who loved to hear other people pursuing therapy and supported other people pursuing therapy. But I was deeply, deeply afraid of therapy. And so I think that therapy is the kind of thing where unless you are truly ready for it, then there's no point in wasting your time. When I pursued therapy for the first time, it was my last semester at Penn. And I don't even remember if there was a specific event that prompted me to try it. I think I was kind of at a point where, like I'm about to graduate. It's free. Like, what am I wasting my time for? So I remember setting up my appointment, and the night before my first session, I was so nervous. I couldn't sleep. And I remember writing a poem talking about like all my anxieties that I had. And just off the top of my head, I remember feeling anxious about, for one, like the race of the therapist, because I be having qualms with white people. So I was very nervous about having a white woman as a therapist. But more importantly, I was very anxious about therapy uprooting the perception I had of myself. I'm the kind of person where I'm very self-reflective. I've always been self-reflective. I'm the kind of person to intellectualize my emotions rather than feeling my emotions. And sometimes I kind of build these structures where in my mind, because I understand the why, it doesn't actually address the why as in how do we fix it, or how do we evolve, how do we grow, how do we treat ourselves with more kindness. I was really afraid to face those dark, dark places. And I would say that my therapy in college was kind of the starting point. Funny enough, at the same time that I was pursuing therapy, I was also in a advanced poetry class. And I'm a writer. I'm going to say it. I'm a writer. I love writing poetry. I've written poetry since I was maybe in the 5th grade. And in pursuing therapy and also entering this really experimental writing class, it was like the perfect way to really express my revelations about myself. My sessions with my therapist really kind of were introductions, like mini introductions to the topic points that needed healing, the places I needed to grow. Things like my relationship with food, things like my relationship with my parents, my self-image, things like that. And very much so questioning, the perspective I have or the highest version of myself that I wanted to be and who I really am, and the tension that's like that lingered between those two. So therapy back then, it was great. I have no regrets. If you're in college and you have access to therapy for free, please use it, because I'm still on my father's insurance. And, them $15 copays, I just let them rock. But in the real world, not everybody has those resources. So if you do have them, definitely take advantage. So now into adulthood. Let me take a quick sip. Hold on, let me heat this up. The funny thing is, I really hate when, I hate things that are like too hot. Like if drinking a beverage gives me anxiety, I don't want to drink it. So the temperature of the tea is perfect right now, but for healing for my throat, she gotta be a little hotter. So I'll be right back. Oh God. Alrighty. Too good. Therapy as a toddler adult, because I say adult lightly. This fall will make about a year since I started therapy. Shout out to Melissa. She has truly changed my life. As a young adult trying to figure out what it means to me to be an adult, what it means to be Sydney, therapy has been really helpful in unlearning a lot of the perfectionism that got me to the place I'm at today, which I'll definitely do a whole nother episode about, perfectionism, black girl excellence, being a Virgo. It's tough out here. Like, it's really a struggle. For one thing that Melissa helped me to learn is the concept of being good enough, right? So because of the field that I work in, oftentimes I apply the same mindset at work. I end up applying it to my personal life. So at my job, I'm a nurse. So there's no room for failure. there's very little wiggle room for mistakes. Everything is very time crunch. You got to be on it, very time sensitive, because these are people's lives at stake, However, that certain level of perfectionism and strict guidelines of behavior, it's like I was trying to apply that to my personal life. And before I was a nurse, that never worked. So I don't know why I thought that would work now, but it don't. Like when it came to the basics, like doing household chores, washing the dishes, doing laundry, vacuuming, cleaning my bathroom, paying bills, like all of it became so much more stressful than it had to be. And on top of that, I was juggling the expectations, really arbitrary expectations of what it's supposed to be, like the things that you learn growing up from having, maybe you have a parent who is like very anal about how you take care of the house when really you're taking care of their house, versus realizing that as an adult, this is your own house. You can make your own rules. Freeze frame. Okay, I really had to say that. I just wanted to add a little more clarification here. I think that as kids, it's a little harder for us to rationalize participating in household chores, because oftentimes we're not explained the values behind it, like discipline, responsibility, and most importantly, upkeep of the home is also a reflection of loving your space and taking care of your space. However, oftentimes as kids, we're just told, do it because I said so, rather than getting the real world values behind it. But yeah, that's it. Back to the clip. And so the concept of good enough really allowed me to take every day, like one day at a time. My life doesn't have to be a list of, check marks. You have a to-do list of 10, 15 things, and you have about this much energy, very little to spare, not to mention that none of those things really serve you. Like none of those things, it's for some people. Some people love doing house chores. For some people, that's healing. It is, it's soothing. Generally not for me. If anything, it could become a stressor. So rather than making it something bigger than it is, rather than making it a defining point in who I am, I just say, okay, Sydney, I'm just going to do enough, because there will always be another day. So that was one really big point that I've carried with me since pursuing therapy this time around. And more recently, I had a dating encounter that I had a moment where I truly felt proud of myself. was okay. There were just a lot of moments where I felt triggered, not because I found him to be particularly malicious, maybe a little immature, but not malicious. And you always want to give people the benefit of the doubt, as long as you feel safe, of course. But, give people the benefit of the doubt, which is why I kind of still went on with the date. But once I kind of hit a sort of breaking point, I felt very comfortable respectfully cutting it. And I was really proud of myself because College Sydney did not really have the comfort to do that. College Sydney did not feel comfortable saying, respectfully, get the out of my house. Like, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get out of here. Like, being able to listen to my body, listen to, the gut feeling, the feeling of being on edge, and listening to it. Because I think we usually, I don't think it's that I ever didn't feel it, because I can be a very visceral person, especially when emotions are involved. So it's not that I didn't feel the physiological changes and reactions to the world around me, to the people around me. It's just that I didn't listen to it. So to be at a place where I am able to prioritize my physical and emotional safety, where I'm able to confidently say, hey, I don't like when you do that. If this is going to work, I need you to not. And this is why, to be able to do that, and not only to be able to do that, but to do that with a stranger, because at the end of the day, I tend to feel more comfortable having those conversations with someone that I know. I guess it's that sort of level of comfort, like, oh, I trust that even when I'm voicing my concerns, I trust that they will still stick around. But you don't really have that trust with a stranger. But to have that confidence regardless, to have that security in yourself, to still voice those boundaries, stand by them, and really not give a if they stick around, because they are a stranger and you're way more important than a date off of somebody you met on the internet. Like, I just felt so proud of myself, and I'm gonna tell Melissa about that next week. And I think it's important, especially when you're pursuing therapy. In the beginning, it can feel very, very stressful. Healing in general, whether you decide to do a more traditional route of therapy versus journaling, shadow work. I know there's a lot of talk of different routes on the internet. No matter what route you choose, it can be very dark at first. In the beginning, it feels like all you can see is what's wrong. And even I hate using the word wrong, but it's as though there's so much work to be done and you see yourself like a project, which can be stressful. However, I do think in a way it's almost like a collaborative project, and it's an ongoing project. There is no due date. And rather than, focusing in on what's wrong, what you need to fix, I do think you should take the moment when it arises to pat yourself on the back. Like, wow, I really applaud that. And it's not like in the moment I was thinking, okay, my therapist taught me this, because it doesn't always come like that. And sometimes it doesn't always look as seamless or the ideal situation. Like, yes, at the first, cord that was plucked, could I have been like, all right, drop me off on the side of the road, I'm calling an Uber. Like, could I have done that? Yeah. Did I do that? No. Do I regret not doing that? No. I genuinely don't. And that's another thing my therapist taught me. She taught me the concept that sometimes growth doesn't necessarily look like not making the same mistake again, because sometimes we will make the same mistake or decision. Sometimes you'll make the same decision again. However, sometimes growth looks like learning from the decision quicker. Sometimes it looks like shifting how you make that decision or how quickly you bounce back from it. Even that is worth noting. I'm going to end it here because I think my camera's dying. But thank you for joining me on this episode of She Stay Chattin. Oh my God. She Stay Chattin. Follow me on all my socials. And I'll see y'all in the next episode. Bye.